What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hatoraid Live, the Hatoraid Hour podcast. I'm your host, Jordan, aka Hatoraid Cowboy, and today we're going to be talking about Dune Part 2. Disclaimer, there are going to be spoilers. And before we get started, just remember, let's have fun, let's be kind to one another, and let's keep it G-rated. All right, so we're going to be talking about Dune Part 2, but I'm not going to be talking about Dune alone. I did not come by myself. We have one of your favorite YouTubers that you know and love. He needs no introduction. He's got 100,000 subscribers, and he's seen Dune Part 2 three times in the last 2 days. Mr. Shane Lee. What's going on, Shane?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Very good. I just got back from watching Dune again, actually, about
For the
2 hours ago.
third time?
No, it was the fourth time.
Fourth? When was the... Hold up. You went Friday.
Yeah, and I saw it twice yesterday.
You saw it twice yesterday?
Yeah, I saw it in IMAX again and then Dolby.
Oh,
Back
wow.
to back.
4 times in 2 days? That's... Let's see, 2 hours. That's like almost 10 hours, if not 10 hours of movie.
Hey, man, I'm not
Wow.
saying I stayed awake the entire duration all yesterday, so I
Yeah,
needed to
that's got
shoot
to be
that.
right.
I needed to shoot that comparison video, so I needed to be seeing back to back because they're like right across the hall from each other. So I was like, and they're staggered by like an hour, so I'd bounce back and forth between theaters, and I'd say, "Oh, that's the difference. Oh, that's the difference in aspect ratio." I'm trying to like videotape it inconspicuously.
Yeah, I so I set up my camera and my lighting, like my everything, so that when I got home I could just shoot it because it was gonna be late, and I was like, I want to shoot this, I want to get this edited and like upload. I stayed up to almost 2 a.m. editing that video, only for it to bomb. It's just like whatever. But I'm trying to do something new. I'm gonna try to keep it up for. I mean, I don't go to the movies very much, so it's not gonna be a whole lot of extra work since I only go, you know, for the big ones. I think the next one we're gonna go see is Kong versus Godzilla. I'm definitely gonna see that in IMAX, and I think I might go back to see Dune Part 2 in IMAX again.
Do
So
you? Regal doesn't have IMAX, do they?
so the Regal that I went to, that location for whatever reason doesn't have IMAX. They have standard, they have RPX, they have
Hmm.
40X, they
Yeah.
have what was the other one in the video that I had in the video? What is it called? Some
Oh,
other
Screen X. Screen X.
Screen X, and then they
Screen X.
have
Yeah.
VIP. But it's like the gap from the standard version to, I think it's like RPX or whatever the next one is. It's like, okay, I pay $14 for the standard version, and then it's like $28. So like, man, I can't do that today. So, but yeah, man. So yeah, let's talk about Dune because I know I've seen it once, you've seen it 4 times, so you got a really, really good idea. Because like when you watch a movie for the first time, it's you don't know what's going to happen next, and you're kind of like trying to follow along. And then I don't know about your theater, but like the audio on mine was decent, but some of the dialogue, like they would say stuff, and my other friends were like, there was stuff where I missed it, and I couldn't help. Was that you? So yeah, let's talk about the Dune Part 2 visuals. So, what are your thoughts on the cinematography on Dune Part 2?
Well, I think if you saw the original movie, part one. I mean, obviously, it looks exactly the same. I mean, I think I know they shot it digitally because I know the big thing was like they were showing it in 70 mil IMAX
Mm-hmm.
in 1:3 ratio, so you get the square aspect ratio. So I know they shot it digitally. Then obviously they'd have to scan it over to film so they could show it in 70 millimeter. But yeah, I mean, it's an epic looking movie. The visuals, I mean, the color palette is exactly the same as the first movie, so it's kind of muted. Just a lot of sand, a lot of browns, and very earth tony with its color palette. I think is there any real color in this movie? I don't think so. I mean, they even shot a couple of scenes that are in the trailer, the gladiator scene in infrared, so it's just basically just black and white.
Yeah, that
So
was cool.
So that way, I guess the whole thing was like they could show them like the skin was like translucent and stuff like that, so you could see like the veins and all that, which was pretty cool. And I was just like, oh, that whole scene right there kind of reminded me of Prometheus. I mean, that
Okay,
kind
yeah.
of actually that whole world kind of reminds me of Prometheus because everybody they're obviously they're in that Coliseum there, they're having to fight, and in Prometheus, obviously they're all like white and they're bald,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, the Harkonnens are kind of like that, and I think the guy that wrote Prometheus also wrote this movie as well, so I don't know if there's
I
a
can see that because there's very similarities on that.
and like the way they like I guess the civilization was back then, or in Prometheus and in this, there's like technology, but it's like old school technology almost type of
Yeah.
thing. I don't know. So I was like, okay, I could see that because that's what Prometheus was kind of the same way because they were just walking around in robes. They all look alike. I was like, oh, the Harkonnens are kind of the same from what I gather from the show. So they're kind of going back. I mean, they still got like gladiator fights and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I mean that's one takeaway that I got from it. I was just like, oh man, this is like Prometheus, and I happen to really love Prometheus. I know people hated Prometheus, but that's one of my favorite sci-fi movies.
I heard the audio
Um,
and video is pretty good too on Blu-ray.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think it's a DTS 5.1
Mm.
in that in Prometheus. Obviously, back to the visuals there. Yeah, I mean, if you saw the first one, it looks exactly the same. It's I would say it's just as grand looking because you get the nice sweeping vistas and the big sand dunes and all that stuff. And obviously, there's bigger, more action in this. Not like a whole lot more action, but there's more action in
Yeah,
this.
there's more.
And you get a bigger scale of like the Fremen and how many Fremen or were they in the South? I think there was like a
Yeah.
million Fremen in that one scene in the cave or whatever they are. I didn't realize that the first time I saw it. And then the second time I was like, oh, I thought they were like in this small cave, but then I actually looked at around. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, there's like a million Fremen in there. I was like, okay, so you get a definitely a bigger sense of scale, I think, in this one, in a lot of scenes in this one. So I thought it was a great looking movie for sure. Is it going to be for everyone? I mean, if you guys are familiar with Denis Villeneuve's visual aesthetic, kind of like even like Blade Runner 2049, he doesn't blow you out with HDR or high peak highlights and stuff like that. Although, I mean, it did look pretty bright in both theaters I saw it in. But as far as like vivid colors and stuff like that, this is not one of those movies. Just like the first one, just like all of his movies, I think. Like Arrival,
Yeah. Kind
Blade
of muted
Runner,
colors. Yeah.
yeah, very muted. Yeah, I mean, what'd you think
S-
about the image?
So I don't know if you know this, and I don't remember how I came across this information. I think either I read it somewhere, but like talking about the Colosseum. So I forget the name of the planet that they're on, the Harkonnens, but right at the very beginning when they first go to that planet, they say something about, yes, because of our black sun or whatever. So someone said that the reason why it's in black and white is because they have a black sun, and when they're outside there's no color, because when they were inside
Hmm.
it was color. And I was like, oh snap, like, okay, so that, because I
Yeah,
remember seeing the trailers and I was like, why is these scenes in black and white? But it's because they have a black sun and when they're outside. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. I've never read the book, so I don't, like, I didn't know that, but I thought
I
the
guess.
oh, and I was
y-
just gonna say I thought the cinematography was beautiful. I mean, it looks the same as the first one. I mean, it literally picks up from the end of the first one. So, but yeah, I think
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of stuff that you really probably should have read the books because I feel like there's like so much stuff that we just don't know about, just being casual
yeah,
viewers. Because I sent you that video because I went and watched one of those, explain Dune one before you see two, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, I was like, this is what this movie's about because I didn't know what this movie was about. Yeah, I didn't know what the first one was about,
me
and
either.
then I watched it. I was like, okay, I was like, oh, that's why the technology's like this. This is why there's different houses and stuff like this, like they're in Game of Thrones. I was like, okay, it makes sense. And then now that I have a better understanding of it, but so I don't know, man. I feel like if you ain't in this lore, you're probably gonna be a little bit confused. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Because it took me. So I tried to watch. I tried to watch before Denise versions came out. I tried to watch the first one during the pandemic because my buddy gave me access to his HBO Max, and I remember I tried to watch it, and I got 15 or 20 minutes into it. I was like, I can't do this. So I never watched it. But when this one came out, I was like, okay, it's pretty cool. But I had to watch it a couple times to understand what was going on. And it wasn't until I watched it a couple weeks ago to prepare for this one where I was like, okay, I understand a little bit more. And then I think I read somewhere too with it. They were saying that in that whole world, the lore, the mythology, they banned AI like thousands of years ago because they wanted humans to be like the advanced. They wanted the humans to have the advanced knowledge and technology and stuff. They wanted to rely more on the humans, so that's why I mean, they still have like some really cool tech, but that's why you don't see like because it's like what is her the emperor's daughter when she takes her when she's like making her notes or whatever, her voice recording, she's like, yeah, year
Oh yeah,
10,000, whatever. And I was like, oh snap, I didn't realize it was like that far in the future.
yeah.
But somebody has a comment real quick. Dolby IMAX or nothing. It seems they pumped up my Dolby theater since the last time I went to the since I went the volume since I went the volume and the bass was way more than any other movie I've seen. Twister should be epic sounding. So yeah, we're gonna talk about the audio too because I feel like it's wildly inaccurate depending on what theater you go to, what type of if it's IMAX, if it's Dolby, and it's just there's no cohesiveness with these theaters. And I will say this,
Yeah.
like I love IMAX, but there has been a few times specifically. I remember when I went to see The Dark Knight. I went to the IMAX here, the biggest screen that they have here, and it's happened a few times in other movies. But the audio was so loud where I was like, in the very beginning with the shotgun, like I wanted to cover my ears because it hurt, and I'm just like, does it need to be this loud? So, but yeah, the as far as the visuals, I thought the movie is one of the most beautifully stunning movies I think that there is. I mean, I like the cinematography is beautiful. They made everything just look absolutely incredible. And I think some of my favorite scenes were actually the black and white scenes when they were in those coliseums. There's just something about it, the way that it looks, that has that like a true cinematic like feeling to it.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely epic looking for visuals for sure. And some things about the story too. Like, I don't know if they explained it in the first movie, like what spice was. Was that explained in the
They
first movie?
they explained it some, but it seems like
And like where it came from? I know where it comes
yes,
from now, but
I know where it comes from now, and I didn't know
yeah,
that. And I remember them saying in the first one something about the worms, but I didn't realize like it again, guys. Spoilers. If you haven't seen it, stop watching right now. But I didn't realize it just straight up came like from so the liquid comes from the worm, but that's also spice in there too, right?
I thought the spice was like worm feces.
I guess so. Did they? Because I was confused because I know that the spice is blue, or it turns their eyes blue, so that's because of the spice. But then when they got to the part with the
Hmm.
worm, when they were extracting it, I was like, oh snap, it's kind of like the same thing. But then I was like, okay, well, is the sandworms making the spice, or like how does it? So, but I mean, I guess it makes sense if it's feces. But that's a lot of real estate for those worms to just just do that. Because I mean, that means
Oh
you're
yeah,
talking
no.
like a whole world. But
I mean, is there anybody watching that has read the Dune books?
yeah, I'd be interested to know. See, there's 12 people watching, so yeah, so I'm also, and I know some people are probably gonna like laugh at me, but I'm also the type of person. So the only books that I've ever read, and it was an audiobook, was the what's the movie with? Oh man, now I can't remember. It's like a trilogy. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I read the audiobooks and then Hunger Games. It was a Hunger Games.
Oh,
So me and my coworkers, somebody had it on the audiobook and we started listening to it. I think when the first one came out, and I listened, and that was the first time that I had done that. And I didn't like it because when I went to the movie, I already knew what was going to happen. So I was like, "Oh, this is about." So it kind of ruined the experience. And I get why some people get upset when they're like, "Hey, the book is not as good." But also, I'm kind of like, I don't think my imagination is going to top what, like, I don't want to try to imagine what the world feels like. You make the movie for me so that I can see it. That's just my thought. And like after listening to the books, it kind of, excuse me, it just kind of ruined the movie experience because I was like, oh, this is supposed to happen. And then if they change it, you're like, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. Like, I don't know. But it seems like a lot of people who are like book readers, they always prefer the book more than the movie. So
I don't have the patience to read that many pages.
yeah, me either.
I'm like, I should be doing something else, not sitting here.
Oh, that's why I did the audiobook because I was like, I'm not gonna sit down and read this. So we listened to it while we were at work. So Corbin says the spice is a naturally occurring substance that can be harvested from the unique conditions. Right. Yeah. So I remember that, and it's created when the fungal secretions of the salmon larvae. Okay. I don't. Did they say that in the movie though? I don't remember the last
I
part.
don't
Where he's
remember
saying,
that. I only got that when I watched that breakdown video.
I think the liquid was bile.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
I
blue
couldn't.
stuff?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Like, obviously, it was coming from the worm, but I was like, okay, they're going in through the mouth. So, like, where is it coming from? Like, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the newest Avatar film when they were
Yeah, yeah,
extracting that stuff from the whales.
yeah. Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, did you get? I said, Denny, did you watch Avatar too? Is that where you got this idea from?
James Cameron.
Is that even in the book? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, I've heard like watching Campia show. He says that it's pretty accurate, but Denis changed some of the stuff. I guess like you can't always like make a direct, I guess book to movie. So I have no
Yeah.
idea what he changed, but I mean it was good to me. So
Well, I know because I watched the first Dune movie. Did you see the first Dune, the original from '84
so
or
yeah,
'80?
that's the one I tried watching during the pandemic. I got like 20 minutes, and I was like, I can't do it, man.
Yeah, it's so cheesy. It's so
It's
cheesy.
rough.
It doesn't hold up
And
at all.
I didn't know. So my buddy and his wife, they told me they watched it, and she was like, I actually enjoyed it. But so I think they sent me some screenshots. I did not know Sting was
Yeah.
Austin Butler's character. That's wild.
Oh, is that what his name is in the movie?
What is this?
Fade.
Fade.
Fade Ralph. Yeah.
Fade Ralph. Yeah.
I liked his character in the movie, but at the same time, I'm like, man, you and Timothy Chalamet got like this super young boy look to you guys. Like Austin Butler was ripped and all that, but at the same time, I'm looking at his baby face. I'm like, I
And
feel like
Timothy
he's getting
Chalamet looks like
older.
he's like just 12 all the time.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
and so I did not know. Did you know this? So did you know that Timothy Chalamet is in Interstellar?
Interstellar. Yeah, he's the kid, the boy.
Yeah. So back then when I watched it, I had no idea who he was, and it wasn't until like years later I was doing something, and I was looking at. I think I was looking on IMDb, and I was like, Interstellar. Who is he? And then I was like, oh snap, he was the kid. Like, and I mean, he doesn't look that much older.
Yeah, no, he looks exactly the same.
It's
I might be a
wild.
little bit taller now, but that's it.
That's
I remember I was
hilarious.
watching it one day because I watch that movie like a couple times a year because I like it.
Oh yeah.
Until the end, but then I was just watching it one day. I was like, wait a minute, this little boy, that's Timothy Chalamet. I was like, oh my god.
That was the first time, and like thinking back, that was the first time I'd ever seen him in anything. And I think other than that and Dune, I've never seen him in any other movie, so I didn't really know much about him. But man, he brought it in this movie. We'll talk about that too. But so
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
talk about the audio because I know we were talking about that, and we were going back and forth. You were saying like a couple of the theaters that you went to, the bass sucked, or it
yeah.
was like either too much or not enough or non-existent. So you've seen it 4 times. Have you seen it? Well, how many formats have you seen it in those 4 times?
Just stuck with 2 Dolbys, 2 IMAXs,
Okay.
and yeah, I saw it again in Dolby tonight. And there was well, first off, there's only one time that I heard the overheads kick in, and that was, I think it was after the part where Batista's character went to go and kill the Chalamet's character,
Oh
Paul,
yeah. When he
or
became a coward and he's like
yeah,
tail
dude,
and
that was like
ran.
the funniest thing. I'm like, hold on. I was like, Batista, do you even know what this guy looks like? He's like 14.
I know. And it was funny because I was standing there and I was like, all right, this is going to be like a huge showdown.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a big battle. And then they just started like picking them off one by one. And he looked around and he was like, "Nah, I'm not staying." I was like, "Really, dude?" That was
Yeah,
pretty funny.
yeah. I think after he got back on the ship or the chopper, it flew away, and I heard it go across from left to right in the top front heights. I was like, and I had to like really kind of hear it, listen for it. And everybody was like, eyes glued on the screen. I'm here, I'm looking up at the speakers. I'm like, am I hearing anything up there? I was like,
So
oh,
I don't
just
think
that one time.
I've been to I think I've been to one Dolby theater. I think it was Transformers: Age of Extinction. But I'm curious because like Dolby is always like, yeah, I don't know if they always have 64 channels. I doubt like most Dolby theaters, but like, can you see the speakers in there in the theater? Like, can you count them to see how many there are overhead?
There's definitely a lot. Would it be 64 though? I
Maybe
feel like it might be.
32.
I feel like it might be in the 30s. Yeah, they're um they're round. I don't know what kind of speakers they are, but they're like round spheres, and they're all over the place. Just like a whole row above your head, and there's a whole row on the sidewalls going up. Um, and I like the look of the Dolby cinemas where it's like they have like the blue LED that goes down the middle, so it's kind of separates the top and bottom portion of the screen. I think the room treatment is on the top half, and then it's black carpet in the bottom half, which I was thinking about maybe doing in my theater. Um,
Nice.
but but the one thing about the audio mix, I didn't hear too many. I only heard the high channels come on once, and then the bass in the Dolby Cinema. I mentioned this here earlier that the subwoofer sounded like it was blown, and
Wow.
apparently Dolby Cinemas have butt kickers. I mean, I don't think I've ever
Huh.
experienced that before.
I didn't know that.
So it was like really low bass in the Dolby Cinema, whereas the IMAX was just like crazy bass. I was like, yo, this feels like there's subwoofers behind my back. It
Yeah,
was
IMAX is
nuts.
always like that.
And the worm scene obviously was one of the best parts for bass, and then when the chopper takes off, that's a good part. I believe the voice. I believe a
Those are
couple
cool.
times they
Yeah.
used the voice. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, they really didn't use that. So I can remember three times specifically where they used the voice, but also I didn't realize because they didn't do that in the first one. I didn't realize they could just straight up just like incept your like thought. They could just talk to you without like speaking verbally. I was because at first I was like,
Hmm.
wait, who's talking here? And then I was like, is she talking in his mind? I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. And then they did it again towards the end of the movie, and I was like, oh, well, that's pretty powerful.
I'm guessing that's where Star Wars got the force from. I would assume.
Well, I've heard that Star Wars was heavily influenced by the book, like by Dune,
Hmm.
so it makes sense.
Because one thing I was curious about, because when they showed Chalamet hopping on the worm for the first time, I was like, oh, cool. And then I was just like, I think they said something like they move at 100 kilometers an hour or something like that in the movie.
Did they say that?
I think
That must
so.
have been one of the audio that I couldn't hear because there was a few times where I'm like, I don't know what he said, but man, that's
Yeah,
pretty.
because I think they were going to transport Rebecca Ferguson's character to wherever they're going,
Oh
over
yeah,
to the
that's right.
south. And I believe he said that they travel 100 kilometers an hour.
Okay,
It's going to
I
be a
guess that
tough.
makes sense because I was like, how are they going to get through this fast on a worm?
And I'm thinking, I was like, yo, you guys hopped on the worm going at 100 miles an hour. I was like, are you slowing them down? Because how did all the other troops and all that get on the worm too?
And Rebecca Ferguson's character, Lady Jessica, she was in like a basket. I'm like, how did you get that onto the worm? Because you got to like get those hooks or whatever. And I was like, I feel like you need to explain this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if you noticed it too. It looked like, excuse me, it looked like they were controlling because when they showed the extended scene where he hooked him, and then he was like he shot it further up, and it looked like the worm had like this lip, and then he was pulling it, and it looked like they were like I guess almost kind of like a horse, like where they
So
control where it goes.
I was watching something on Stephen Colbert, and I guess when they put the hooks in, it lifts up. I guess that's like his the way they breathe or something like that. And if
Okay,
they open it and he goes under the sand gets into their organs, so they stay above the sand, so they don't get sand inside of it.
interesting.
I think who's I don't know if it was Rebecca Ferguson that explained that, or maybe it was like Austin Butler that was explaining it. But
Huh.
that's how they were wrangling it. But then I'm thinking to myself, I was like, these worms are giant. You're gonna tell me those two little hooks, those
I
they
know.
have
That's
two
what
of
I was
my
thinking.
pinholes are gonna tell. I'm like, what? Like, okay,
This looks like Batman's like something that he uses like, and it
yeah,
wasn't like dug in there. I'm like that thing could easily pop off.
yeah.
But I thought that was funny too. Whenever he first called it, and everyone stood up, they were like, "Whoa, whoa, not that big." It was like, "Oh my god, dude!" Javier Bardem's character was hilarious, man. Like especially at the end when like Timothy Chalamet was yeah, I think it was the final fight with Austin Butler's character, and everyone was like super tense. And then after he won, it was almost like he forgot. He was like, "Talking about that," like he was like he was just always like jittery, man. But I liked his character a lot. He did a really good job.
Yeah, he was the comedy relief when he was like, "Oh, he's the Mahdi or the Muad'Dib, but he's humble, so he's gonna say he's not the Muad'Dib,
Yeah,
but he is Muad'Dib." I'm
because
like,
yeah, everything he did, he was like, "Oh, you see, he's humble." He's it's like
and
so.
what are these names? He's the Lisa Al Gaib, and then
I
he's the Muad'Di, and
and
then
then
he's the
there's
Muad'Dib. I'm
and
like,
then they
what?
started calling him like Usu or Usu
Oh
something. I was
yeah,
like, my
Usu
goodness,
or something like that. I was like, yo, how are we supposed
he's
to
got
keep
like
track
five
of these names,
names.
man?
That's what I'm saying. Like watching it for the first time, you're like, okay, wait, what? So like, I need to watch it again, knowing that I know what's gonna happen. I can focus on like other stuff. But it was just kind of like, okay, man, like how many, and I kept getting confused because I'm like, wait, who are they talking about? Are they talking about Chalamet? Are they talking about Lady Jessica? Like, I don't know. It's a little bit hard to follow if you're not, like you said, if you're not into the lore and stuff like that. But as far as the audio at mine, yeah, I watched the standard viewing and the audio itself was okay, but like it was severely lacking on bass. And I guess I wasn't paying too attention to it because I was engrossed in the movie. But like thinking back now, I was like, yeah, there wasn't hardly like not enough bass. Like I have more bass in my theater. So,
Yeah.
but that's odd that Adobe Cinema with all those speakers and you like one time barely heard anything. Like I don't understand. Are they not mixing it for the theater
I
or is it
mean,
like,
on my video, a lot of people commented like, "It must be your theater because our theater was crazy bass." So, I mean, maybe
huh?
it's probably just my theater. I would assume because
Which one do you go to?
there's one over here. It's like 10 minutes from me. It's Plainville, Connecticut. So, I mean, there's a new one they opened up at the old town I lived in, which I might try to check it out because it's like brand new. Sounded awesome when I saw Madam Web there. Because
That's
I was
probably
like,
the only good thing about the movie.
yeah, I was like, oh my god, there's so much bass in Madam Web. I was like, wow.
Looks like they spent too much time on the audio engineering and not enough on the actual plot. I have yet to see that. I'm gonna wait till that sucker comes out on Blu-ray or something. Like I'm not going to the theater to see that. It's
Yeah, wait for it to stream on one of your services.
yeah.
It's not a buying kind of movie.
All right. So plot. So we were talking because, and it kind of goes along with this. But what did you think about the plot from the first movie to how this one transpired? Like, I mean, I like it can be a little bit hard to follow, but I feel like they got way deeper into the lore, like why they are doing things, why they're fighting. The plot's pretty deep. I feel like much more than the first one.
I mean, I thought it was just his ascension to the was it the Kwisatz Haderach or something like that?
Yeah,
Kwisatz
whatever.
Haderach?
How do you say
Oh,
it?
yeah, that's the other name he's got. He's a Kwisatz Haderach. It's like, yeah, he got 6 names, man.
I don't know if that is like. I guess the books must be like that, but it's like, man, how are you supposed to follow this?
Dude, I don't know, man. I mean, I like this one. I think maybe because I found it a little bit easier to follow because I didn't know what the hell was going on in the first one, and I saw things like 8 times. I was like, what are we doing in this movie, man? But now that I watched the breakdown on it, I was like, okay, it makes sense now. So I guess he, It's his ascension to being the Kwisatz Haderach, essentially, just being the supreme Bene Gesserit. I guess that's kind of what it
Yeah.
is, and he's leading. He's leading. What's the goal? What's actually the goal? What is he doing? He's the leader to do what? He wants to help
Oh,
Arrakis
something about bring them to the green, like
to the
what did he say?
paradise.
To the green paradise or something like that. I think because it was a color, I was like, why is it green, or why is it blue, or whatever he said. But yeah, to the paradise. So okay, what did you think about? And obviously, again, if you've read the books, maybe you knew what was coming, but whenever Leah Sado showed up, I was like, okay, what's the significance of her character? And then she's supposed to have like another, I guess, rival Al Qaib or whatever, because the Bene Gesserits on the other side are trying to secure the bloodline, but they don't want Timothy Chalamet because I guess he's like an abomination because he's a boy,
Are
and
they
then
are they supposed to be taking over the universe? Is that what the main goal is?
I don't know because
That's what I'm talking
they
about,
they
dude.
want they want the Harkonnens to continue ruling in power, but it's like why do they? From what I understand, it seems like the Bene Gesserit are actually the ones that are actually pulling the strings behind the curtain, but the whole thing with the yeah, I don't
So
know, man.
I guess Paul was in Jessica's belly, who got impregnated by the Baron. Is I think that's my
So
understanding.
the Baron was her dad.
Oh, the Baron was her dad.
Yeah, because she remember he saw the vision. He was like, did did my father know that you were a daughter of the Baron? And she was like, I didn't even know until I drank that blue stuff. But I was like,
Uh,
whoa, wait, what? So
I must have heard that
because
wrong. Okay.
yeah, because that's when he was like, this is how we survive. We continue we basically be Harkonnen. So that's why he took the Emperor's daughter. But yeah, because I remember I was like, oh snap,
Yeah.
she's not even she's like a Harkonnen. So that means he's Harkonnen. And because remember at the end he told Austin Butler's character he called him cousin. He was like, cousin, really?
Yeah. I've killed
So
many relatives. Yo, his voice in
yeah,
this movie too.
my friend said that his voice changed like three or his accent changed like three times. I was like, did it? I thought his accent was pretty. I wasn't expecting that.
I thought he was trying to sound like the Baron, because him and the Baron kind
Yeah,
of sound the same,
because
with a little.
that's his nephew,
Yeah,
and I guess the other guys, Dave Batista. They're like brothers, right? I think
Ye-
those are both his nephews.
yeah, I think so. I think
They're
so
they're
too.
brothers because he called him
Red
brother at one point.
Red Band or something like that. Red Bar. I
Read
think that's the
something.
name. Yeah, Red
Yeah,
something. But yeah, he was. Yeah, I dug his voice. There's still a little bit of Elvis in there. I felt.
I see that in everything. I was watching when I had Apple TV Plus a couple weeks ago. I was watching that I guess that war movie, whatever. I'm like, dude, you still sound like Elvis.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
like,
is that are you just doing that now? Because I mean, I've never seen him in anything before Elvis. Now I'm just like, you still sound like Elvis. What are you doing?
it's just like way deeper. And I was like, hey,
Yeah. So yeah, so this was interesting, and I'm guessing. So I remember watching Campy's show, and he was like, "Dude, the books get like super 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 weird," and I just totally wasn't expecting this. But when, because they kept cutting to her womb, and I was like, why do they keep showing this embryo?
well, if you saw the 1980s movie, there's a little girl, which I believe is his sister, and
That's
that
what my
little
friend was
girl,
saying.
yeah, his sister, that's in the womb. But I guess it would have looked weird having a little girl, killing people.
Yeah,
So they kept it in the womb and then gave the mother a bigger part.
yeah,
Which,
because
all
she
right,
was saying something about that was not the same as the old movie. But I was just like, because they kept cutting to it at a certain point, and I was like, okay, why are they? And it was like these really quick scenes. I was like, why are they showing this? And then the CG was kind of weird. And then after she, I guess, gained control, and she stopped, having like spasms or whatever. She told Paul, she's like, yeah, the baby's talks to me, and I was like, wait, what? And then she just started having this conversation, and then they started showing like the baby even more, where it was talking to her, and I was like, "Yo, this is pretty weird. Like, where did this come from?"
I guess because she drank the water, she got
Right.
all the memories of the other Reverend Mothers.
But okay, so yes, but then you remember whenever she first drank it, the other Reverend Mother, she was like, "What have we done? She's pregnant,"
Yeah.
and it was almost like I was like, "Oh snap, is the baby gonna die?" But it was almost like they were like scared, but I guess she just gained the ability to talk.
Yeah, I guess I guess because they got two Reverend Mothers or
Yeah. So
something. I don't know.
so I
Yeah.
wonder what her significance is, because if she can do that in the womb, like how much more powerful is she than Paul?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. I didn't get that far in the little breakdown videos, but I know they're supposed to be um, Paul and Chani is supposed to have a kid, which I guess they omitted from the movie to
Maybe that'll
keep it
happen in the third
shorter
one.
or something like that.
Yeah, that was messed up too at the end when
Oh yeah,
he was like, "I want you to know that I will love you for as long as I breathe." And I was like, "Why is he telling her this?" I was like, "Man, something." I thought something bad was gonna happen, and then he was like, "Yo, let me take that girl." I was like, "Oh snap, dude, that's messed up." And she was just like, like 5 seconds after he
I
just
feel
told her that.
I feel like there's no good person. I feel like they were the good guys in the first movie, but I feel like in this movie, there's no good people in this movie.
No, well, Campia keeps saying on his show, he was like, "I don't want them to make Dune Messiah the third one, because he's like, I think a lot of people are going to be very upset at what happens in that book if he adapts it that way." So I don't know what he's talking about, but they definitely, because he kept saying, he was like, "I can't go to the South." He's like, "If I go to the South, like stuff is going to go down." And then after he drank that stuff, his mom made him drink that stuff. He just like she like with Zendaya's character, she saw it. She's like, "Man, this ain't the same dude."
Yeah, like he turned heel all of a sudden after he drank that blue stuff. I was like, oh
Yep.
shoot! And then what I think is funny is like when after he drank the liquid or the water, he walked. He was walking towards the camera. And remember the worm was like behind him. They
Oh
showed like the worm
yeah.
going behind him. And then he was just like walking down like he was a Jedi through the millions of people, and he was just giving them looks
Yeah, that was
like
that was an
don't
awesome scene, cuz and it was like from the side but like way like zoomed out, and
yeah.
he just had this look that was like kind of like crazy, and he was like it was just a really cool scene. And
And then,
then go
but
ahead.
then when he was like, "There's nobody here who can challenge me," I was
Like,
like, "Come
bro,
on,
take it down a
dude."
notch, man.
Even his mom was like, he was like, "Slow
Yeah,
it
she was
down."
like, "So take it down, slow it down." And then he just started going up to people. He was like, "Yeah, you dream about this. This happened," and they were like, "Oh." I was like, okay, that's what his plan was, because he was like, I have to get these people on board in order to take down the Harkonnens. But they were like, not yet. Oh yeah, that's what it was, because they were like, hey, if you want to talk here, you need to go through this. He was like, there's nobody here that can challenge
Oh
me.
my god, dude, hold on. When Chani got up, when they were taking Chani away from Stilgar, and then she turns around, she walks up, she turns around to the millions of other people from in there. She
Oh
yells into the
yeah.
crowd or whatever. And then all of a sudden, I guess she starts to walking away, but then Gurney, Thanos, pulls her down. I was like, hold on. I was like, what are the odds of you walking past Gurney? All these people here.
I
I was like,
know.
what are the odds of this happening, man?
Plot holes.
He's like, shh, quiet.
He's like, sit out.
What the hell?
Yeah, so that was yeah, that was a really good scene, man. I think that's when like you saw like, oh snap, this dude can act, man. Like he's
Yeah,
getting
but
into it.
at the same time, I was like, yo, I can't take him being a tough guy seriously. Walking like that, he looks
That's
like
true.
it's like
Well,
my
and then
young
remember
nephew.
when he used the voice on that one remember, like she almost like flipped over. She was like, oh, oh, oh.
Yo, then they cut the scene to Austin Butler. Austin was like,
Yeah, oh, like,
I was
oh,
like,
okay,
yo.
I'm impressed. So, okay, that reminded me. I did not realize how much of when we saw Dave Batista, he turned tail and ran, but then when they were like, "Hey, we've got the last three of the House of Atreides," and they brought them out, and they were like, because I was like, why are they walking like that? And then Leo Sado was like, "That one's not drugged. He's walking straight." And I'm like, "Oh, these dudes are cowards, man. They just they like drug him up so that he can have an easy fight." And then he was
That
mad afterwards. He was like, "Hey, that one guy was a drug. You tried to kill me." I'm like, "So you can't fight fair ever?"
that whole scene though, I was like, yo, Austin Butler is channeling his Brad Pitt Troy right here in this whole fight. I was like, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I just thought that was like, because it took me a second, and I was like, why are these two dudes like kind of like walking kind of weird, and this guy is like straight up? And then I was like, oh snap! So they drug him up so that Austin Butler can look good when he fights him. And I'm like, man, that's pretty low.
He I didn't know. Obviously, we didn't read the book, so I was like, "Oh shoot!" I was like, "Does Paul actually die in this movie?" And I was like, "Wait,
That's
no,
what
he
I was
can't
wondering.
die." I was like, "He can't die. He's gonna come back and stab him with that knife is in the side." And sure enough, he did. I was like, "Okay."
And I was like, how did he do that? And then after, because we were talking about after the movie, my friend was like, I think it went back to whenever he was fighting Thanos. Remember in the first movie, he was like,
Yeah.
"I got you, my lord." He's like, "Yeah, but I got you too." It was kind of like that same scene where he was like, "Oh, I didn't notice." I guess
Oh yeah.
Austin Butler thought he got him. And he was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, bro, I got you."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. He did that. He did do that. He stabbed him in the gut. Yep.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that.
So
Um, it was a good movie though. It was a good movie.
do
It
you think
was
it's the one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever?
no. I mean, maybe if I read the books, but not. I don't think it is for the casual viewer because you got to know some stuff. You just
That's
have
true.
to.
I think that's the one thing about this movie is that it's not for everybody, and I think one of the a lot of people were saying, is it going to make $1 billion? And some people were like Harloff was saying, he's like, I don't think so because this isn't a movie for everybody. This isn't a movie for kids that are going to get into it. So when you watch like Avengers or Marvel, like you've got ages from like 10 to whatever 30, 40, 50 that are watching it, so they're going to make $1 billion. But I'm interested to see what this movie is going to make at the box office. But I do definitely think it's one of the best sci-fi movies that I have personally seen. Just like the scale is absolutely crazy in this movie, man. Like I don't know how they were able to just make everything, like obviously you have those wide shots, but then it was like some of the stuff with like the Fremen and stuff, and I'm like, man, this thing looks just absolutely massive. They did an excellent job of making the world look big. I like the worms. Um, but I don't know, like there was a couple times when I thought the CG. I don't know if I don't remember if it was the worms or something. I was like, huh, that wasn't as good. But I mean, I need to see it again before I like ultimately decide, is this one of the best ever? Like I don't know if it's like it's. I think it's top 10 for me, but I don't know where.
I think in order to be in that conversation, it would have to be like one of those movies that you just has a really high rewatchability factor. Like I'm not
Yeah.
sure the Dune series would have a high rewatchability factor for me if I wasn't just using it for demos.
Yeah, so I think I agree with you that on the first one. This one though, I think it's just like there's more action. You see more of the world. You get more story. So I could see myself watching this one multiple times. Whereas the first one, I had to watch it because I was like, I still don't know what's going on. Like I still don't understand. So I think this one's better than the first one, but I think that's going to depend widely by, or it's going to differ widely person to person. And I'm I'm kind of interested. I'm not going to do it, but I'm kind of interested to read the books just to see how different the adaptation from the movie is. But I'm not going to do it. Maybe I'll read some cliff notes or something.
I just get the audiobook.
Right. But
I mean, I am looking forward to watching it again at the house. Hopefully, I got my theater
oh
up and
yeah,
running by then.
I
Because
think
the
it's going to be a pretty. I think it's going to be like demo worthy all around. All around.
yeah, I remember. I know watching it at home. The At least the first movie was kind of it wasn't like a super bright movie. Um, so it was definitely kind of dull looking. But then this movie at the theater. You know,
Yeah,
it's really
it was
bright.
bright, and
Yeah,
I
it's
think it
super
was the
bright.
sand. So I agree with you. So I went to the plain, or the regular standard version, but they have a really good screen there at that Regal. Because I was looking, I was like, man, this is pretty crisp, and this is just
Yeah.
standard. But I do agree with you. Like some of the when they were outside the sand shots and stuff, like when they were in the sand, it was like super bright. So I don't know if they did that on purpose just because they were outside more in this movie. But I definitely do think it's a brighter movie.
I mean, I don't know how it's gonna. Now that I've seen it so many times, I'm gonna have a good frame of reference when it comes on
Yeah.
home video. So I'm wondering if that's gonna look the same when it comes to home. I mean, I guess
So
we'll find out in another 30 days or so.
yeah, because it's probably gonna it'll probably pop up on pre-order for Kscape. What, maybe another month, and then
Nah, you can buy
wait,
it now. It's $40.
what you talking about, the second one,
Yeah.
the part two? It's available right now. Really?
Well, I mean, you can pre-order
I
it.
mean, but like you could pre-order it. I didn't
Yeah.
realize the pre-orders came up that fast.
Yeah, they're like same day, dude.
Oh wow.
Super quick.
Okay.
$40. I ain't dropping $40. That's for sure.
No, I'm not. So I had that's funny because I had Aquaman in my saved for when, because it was still like 34.99, and I was like, I'm not paying $35 for this. It bombed. And then literally yesterday I was doing something and I got an alert from Kscape. It was like
15.
14. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
buy. So that's one thing that a lot of people crap on Skyscape. Blu-rays, they don't do that. Like
Yeah.
since I've had the Kscape, I've had I don't know how many alerts where it's like, hey, this is a promotion on this thing for like 3 days or 2 days, where I'm like, this is dirt cheap. So that's
A
pretty
lot of
cool.
their stuff is like sometimes like $5 cheaper than the disc.
Yeah,
A
it's
lot of the
crazy.
times, like most of the time, I would say. People are always like, "Oh, dude, I'm never paying $40 for movies." I was like, "Yo, that's like one studio does $40, and that's like
Yeah, I'm not
release
paying
day. That's
that.
Warner Brothers.
And that's more
Even
than
the pre-order for the Dune 2 disc is $40, so it's the same
wow.
price. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I mean, they get hate for, I mean, they get hate because it's expensive, but the movies are the same, if not cheaper, most of the time than disc is. But yeah, I'm looking
So
forward to watching it at home because I want to know if it's equally as bright or if it's just the way they master it, which makes it dim. Because the
yeah,
IMAX and the Dolby were bright as hell, so
I
super
can't wait to
bright.
see
Yeah.
that. Try to go to IMAX to see that. So, the question is for you guys: what do you think about Dune? If you've seen it yet, do you think Dune Part Two is one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever? Do you think it's a perfect movie? Do you think it's better than the first one? Worse than the first one? Let us know down in the comments. All right, so home theater updates. So first of all, congratulations on the new house. I know you were
Oh,
you were
thank you.
somewhat homeless for for like 2 months.
I was, yeah. I was putting out no videos. I had no content.
Yeah, that sucks, man. So where are you at right now on your like getting your theater everything back up and running? I know you got your 2 channel or kind of set up.
So yeah, so home theater, I've really got nowhere. we're we're gonna start doing the flooring this week. Well, I think tomorrow. We're gonna start laying down the subfloor and then putting the riser in. So that's gonna be coming up. And then during the week, we're gonna be sealing up the windows and
Mm,
the extra door, so that way I only have one entryway into the place. And then I'm either gonna go paint or fabric walls. I gotta see what's going on with the fabric wall people, whether or not they want to be part of the build.
mhm.
But that's coming hopefully this week, next 2 weeks or so. But the living room is set up. I got the Golden Ear T66s in there, and then I just hooked up the Sony AZ7000 ES AVR with the
Nice.
DefTech DM30 center channel, the big, DefTech's
Mhm.
biggest center channel subwoofer. And I don't have any subwoofers in there, so I'm just running everything full range. And boy, whew, that center channel bumps.
Is that the same one that you reviewed right before you left your other house or
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
apartment? Okay.
Yep. So now that my rooms are bigger, I mean now it's really got some space to breathe. And man, I wish more speakers were full range. There's always that belief like you gotta cut your speakers off at 80 hertz because you don't need it. You don't need it. You got subwoofers. I was like, yo, that's false. I was like, just because you guys have never had full range speakers everywhere before, but that center channel's got so much bass. It's awesome sounding. I know DefTech don't get that much love, but those Dimension series speakers are the real deal, and they're
Well,
not too expensive.
I remember when they came out with that, not that one, but like years ago when I mean I had no money and I was just looking and I was like, oh, someday when I upgrade it. I remember when they first came out with that powered center channel and it had a subwoofer or a woofer in it. I was like, what? They put a bass channel and a center channel? And so I started looking, I was like, oh man, and it's they were powered. So I was like, I was looking at that to I was thinking about one of those, to upgrade, and then I looked at the price and I was like, "Ooh, I can't do that." So, I mean, this was probably almost 10 years ago. I was just getting into home theater. I had just started getting my stuff, but I was like, "Oh, I want to kind of upgrade because I knew I had, like janky, cheap speakers." But I've never had the opportunity to hear them, but I'm curious to see how they sound. Let's see.
Yeah,
John
there's
says, seeing this yesterday makes me want to change up my screen setup to something that could be closer to an IMAX. Oh yeah, he commented on my video earlier. The masking would be a pain to figure out though. Yeah. So, are you doing any type of masking on your new screen?
no, I don't believe in masking. I think masking looks retarded. That's my personal opinion.
Even the auto masking ones.
Yeah, I don't know. It just looks jank. It's just like you got a big screen. All of a sudden, it just shrinks. You just bring
Yeah.
in some black bars in. And what I would like to see is expanding screens instead of having black masking bars come in. Maybe have like on a roller, you roll out the screen to go to
Mm,
143,
yeah, that would
shrink
be
it back
cool.
down to go to 239. Like it'll shrink down, but then it'll go out that way. I mean, I don't know how they would do that, but that would be pretty cool though if you could go that way. Because why would you just want to shrink your screen down? Like if it's IMAX, make it bigger. Like for IMAX stuff, I would take the 239 aspect ratio and just stretch it out horizontally, no, vertically. But then if you want to go back to 239, it just shrinks back down, but you still keep your width, which is how it should be.
All
And
right.
then if you are going to 16 by 9, technically the screen should go this way. And then you would go scope again, it opens out that way again. So that I would like to see something like that rather
Yeah,
than
that would
just
be
bringing
cool.
the black bars in. Yeah.
I've. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a scope screen, but then you gotta worry like for stuff that's IMAX because I mean I don't have like crazy amount of movies that are IMAX, but that would drive me crazy if like oh now I gotta try to adjust this during a movie. So when I got my screen, I was like I'm just gonna go 16 by 9 and not worry about it. I mean most of the times I forget about the black bars and stuff like that, but it's not that big of a deal. And like you were talking about in your one of your videos, like there's just so much more content now. It just doesn't make sense to I mean, if you have the money and that's what you want, do it. And if you've got masking, do it. But there's just everything is going to be in 16 by 9 mostly. So
I mean, I did scope for the last theater because I had a super short throw. And in
mm,
order for me to get the biggest screen, I had to go scope, but I also had to use a lens, which obviously magnifies it
yeah,
basically. So it made more sense that way. But
Panamorph.
yeah, but if you got the space, I think just go the biggest 16 by 9 screen because then you're covered for both formats.
Yeah, yeah, I
And the
agree.
black bars ain't like that bad.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
And then
Um,
when you get those IMAX movies,
this
not that
looks
there's a
awesome.
whole ton, but there's been a lot more coming. But then, if you're streaming, just about every stream movie is like in 2.0. Not
Yeah,
every single one, but it's in some stupid aspect ratio. It's always like 2.0, 2.1, or 190. So they're all over the place now. So I was just like, you know what? We're just gonna go 16 by 9 this time around.
60 by 9. What size screen are you looking at?
I think 150 is going to be like the max. Because I think if you go above
Nice.
150, then I don't think these projectors got enough juice to really light up like a
Yeah.
260 inch screen. Plus, 150 is like the biggest screen I could fit, like width wise, in there. So I wanted to max that out as big as possible.
Is it going to be pretty much floor to ceiling or like the screen?
Nah, it's gonna be wall to left to right. So I
Oh,
tried
okay.
to I tried to max it out. I was
Gotcha.
gonna try to max it out either this way or this way, but to get the biggest screen, I had to go vertically. Is it vertically or horizontally? Horizontally. I maxed it
Horizontally.
horizontally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I did this time. So
Cool.
hopefully it looks cool. I mean, I
So,
might
but
have to put up the Stewart. I might have to do the 120 Stewart for the time being until I get the screen in. I'm not sure who's going to be partaking in the build, so we'll see. But 150 is the goal.
and you're still doing acoustically transparent.
Yeah, you know the funny thing is I hung my TV. I got an 85-inch, and I know we were talking about this when the 100-inch Hisense got dropped for like 2-3 grand,
Mm-hmm.
and in order to put my center channel, I would have to raise the TV up to maybe like a foot or two from the ceiling, which means I would have to be like this in my living room because the center channel is like so big. It's very tall. So I'd have to lift it up, the TV so high. So what I did was I centered the TV on the wall, but then I had to get a really shallow stand that wasn't so high in order to fit the center channel. So now the center channel is it's closer to the ground, but the TV's still at a comfortable level. I can only imagine getting the 100-inch in there, or maybe one of those micro LED walls that it's really going to be tough to get a center channel in there. So it's like
Yeah.
if you really want to get the best audio, you still kind of have to do an acoustically transparent screen because there's really no way you can like maximize your screen real estate on the front wall and still have a good center image. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is just me with an 85-inch too. So
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing with the whole like the the massive TVs that are coming down in price are I think it's great and I think it's good for home theater. I think they should be. But my biggest thing is like okay, if you want to get this if you're doing it for home theater or even in your room, if you go 100 inches, where are you going to put your speaker? Because that means your speaker
yeah,
is going to be like way down here, and you're going to have to aim it, and it's still not going to be as good as having it where it's supposed to be, where it's level. So I don't know, Matt. That's just I don't think I would ever switch for home theater to a TV just because of that. I mean, right
yeah,
now I don't have an acoustically transparent screen, but my literally like from the top of my speaker to the bottom of the black bezel is I mean it's millimeters. Like I have it perfect. So and it's right. It's aimed at the main listening position, and I just don't see how technology would even advance to a point to where they could put a. I know they say with those LED screens that they're or is it maybe the micro LEDs that they saying that they could possibly do that in the future, but I'm like, there's still got to be some degradation,
yeah,
if even if you're able to find a way to put a speaker or put a speaker in the TV, whatever. I just don't see that happening like by the for home theater enthusiasts that are like hardcore. They're not going to do that.
yeah. No. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd ever switch out for a
Yeah.
TV for the projector. I mean, it'd be nice to. Yeah, no, it's just not gonna work. Just from the audio standpoint, it just ain't gonna
Yeah,
work.
like a living room. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about my living room setup. Like I have a what 2014 Sony TV that barely has HDR. I don't even have a speaker, a center channel right now. I just have stereo, and that works. But I don't really when I watch movie or when I watch TV out there, I'm watching YouTube if I'm eating or something. I don't really care about that. So I could see like maybe having that in the living room and just not really caring about the audio. But for home theater, I would never do that. I'll just and plus, I feel like when I even if I'm like at a friend's house and they have like a 75, 85-inch TV and I'm watching a movie, I don't get that cinematic feel like I do with the projector. There's just something about the way that it looks that I feel like I lose that sensation when I'm watching it on a TV. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
Yeah, yeah. Projectors, they're just a little bit softer, I guess.
yeah,
It's that reflective light rather than
right,
the because TVs are a bit harder on the eyes, so it's you miss that soft glow from the projector screen.
yeah.
But
Okay,
don't get
so
me wrong, man. I love my 85-inch.
oh yeah,
Okay, I
I'm sure it
wish.
looks. That's a
Yeah,
Sony.
yeah. I mean, I wish I had the 100-inch. I contemplated getting the 100 when I moved in here because I broke the other 85.
Oh yeah,
I was like, it's like, yo, it's only $2,000. I'll put it on the Best Buy
only.
card. It's 12 months, no interest financing. I was like, I could swing that. I was like, no, I gotta refrain.
Man,
I gotta hold
yeah.
off. Let me just
But
wait.
having a mortgage, man, changes a lot of buying decisions.
Yeah,
Even when I'm not, I'm like, I really don't need this, but I need this for you too. But I got to get this. But I'm
it's
like,
weird.
nah.
Dude, I've only been here for like 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks now, and I got the water bill, and that mess was like $130. I was like, yo, $130 for the month.
For your water bill?
I was like, does that
No,
smell right?
you got it like 2 weeks ago because I remember you told me you're like I haven't even been here
That,
like
no, that's the
a week and
electric
a.
bill. That was the electric
Oh,
bill.
okay.
I got the
Your
water bill
water
in
bill was a
yesterday.
hundred. How?
I don't know if they're counting previously, like what was going on here, whatever was running here previously or what,
Mine's
but
never been that. Like
really?
mine, and I know I live by myself, but my water bill is like almost exactly the same every. And I've been here for 5 years, and I'm like, are they prorating it? Like if I go over a certain amount, then they charge? Because I'm like, there's sometimes where I'm like, if I go travel or something and I'm not there or whatever, I don't use the as much water, but my bill is literally almost exactly the same every month. So I'm like, they must be prorating it, and if you go over like a certain, I guess if you run the meter over something, then they'll charge you. But I'm like, mine's always like $49, like 51 cents or something like that.
Really?
Man, that's like almost 3 times as much as what I pay.
That doesn't make sense
That's
to me.
crazy. And I mean, I know you work from home, so maybe you're home more and maybe you use more water, but it shouldn't be that much.
Oh, not that
Not a
much. I
hundred.
mean,
What did you pay at the apartment?
no, that was covered. We had to pay for water there.
Oh, it was rolled in there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's weird. I was like, yo, I was like, how could it be that much money?
that's crazy.
Unless I'm taking really long showers. I mean, I do take long showers, but
I mean, if you got a
still.
phone out in your shower.
I was like, damn, dude.
Okay, so for speakers, what are you going with on your setup?
I think
When you get your
I think we're going RBH this
oh
time around.
RBH powered,
Our
huh? Active.
no. I mean, I got the Trinov. It's basically makes it active, anyways.
Okay.
Um, no, so they RBH has got some concentric drivers. I guess instead of like a soft dome, I believe they're sending me like a ribbon inside of the woofer. I don't know how they're doing it,
Interesting.
but I believe it's got an AMT or something like that inside of it. So it's going to be still kind of like the Sendo because the Sendos were concentric drivers, but this way they're going to be more bass capable. So hopefully they'll be playing down to like 50 hertz or so. So they'll get
Nice.
a little bit more thump, and they're supposed to be all exactly the same. So I think we're looking at like 18 speakers in there, plus three
But you
or
get that
four
21 inch.
subwoofers.
You get the 21-inch RBH too, right?
Yeah, so that's coming in. So it's 12.3.6, I think we're
Man,
going
that's gonna be
for.
crazy. And what are the other subs you got?
The other RBH towers, they had like the two 12s in it,
Oh yeah,
two
yeah.
stack 12s. So I guess they're going to come down and calibrate the subs with the seal 21, because I guess you got to do some special thing to get it working. And the funny thing is that those RBH subs are like the best. I was able to dial in those subs so well that it was like a ruler flat. It was just
What?
ruler. I mean, you got to go back
Wow.
to it's in my video. Gene was like, he goes, "What did you do?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I just did the multi sub optimizer thing. He goes, "How'd you get it so flat like that?" I was like, "I don't know. I just did do REW and they ran the calculations.
Wow.
I plugged in the PEQ and it was like so flat." I was like, I've never seen something like that
That's
before.
crazy.
Yeah, it was like fucking nuts, man. I mean, I
That's
had to add
awesome.
a little curve to it because obviously there's not too much bass if it's your measurements totally flat. So I had to change it after the fact, but it looked good for the video.
Cool, cool. So RBH speakers, subwoofer. You talked about the screen. Oh, you're gonna be building a riser too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if would you call it a riser? Like half of the floor is going to be, it's going to be up. It's going to be
I guess. I
raised.
mean, it's still. Yeah, I guess it's still a
Yeah.
riser.
And then I think
Cause
instead of steps, I'm going to do ramps.
okay, so you're gonna
At
have
least
stadium
one
seating.
ramp. Yeah, so I want it to
Two.
feel. I want it to be like a high riser too, like a high rise platform. So I kind of want to. I want it to feel more like your Not so much in a home theater, but maybe more in a stadium kind of type of thing, type of feel to it. So I don't know if I could
Cool.
accomplish that, but we'll see. Make my own makeshift Dolby Cinema in there,
That'd
and
be cool, man.
I want to get all those channels in there because I know a lot of people are like, you don't really need 7.1.4, or you don't need to go past 7.1.4 because all your mixes are locked into that. It's never going to use your other speakers. It's like I'm pretty sure that is false, but or else the trade-off wouldn't be capable of 32 channels.
Yeah. I know so when I got the RMC one, I was like, oh cool, I can utilize 6 height channels. And then I was watching, so I started putting in like, Dolby Atmos movies, and I was like, man, why is this sounding like that? This doesn't sound right. And I was like, maybe something happened. And then I watched another movie, and I was like, wait a minute. And so I Googled it, and I realized on disc, I believe it's the highest that you can, or the highest that they mix on disc for home is 7.1.6, but the movie has to be mixed in that. So like if you play if you play a 7.1.4 mix on a 7.1.6 system, it throws off the Atmos, because I was hearing
Yeah.
stuff like I was watching Godzilla versus Kong, and I was hearing stuff in different channels, but it wasn't coming through. And I was like, I know how this is supposed to sound. This doesn't sound right. And so when I looked it up, I was like, oh snap. So I was like, well, I either have a choice of doing 6 height channels and 2 subs, or doing 3 subs and just doing 4 height channels. So I was like, you know what? There's not very many content that is mixed with 6 height channels. So there's no use for me to just keep this 6 height channels and get like a subpar experience. So I just went with the 3 subs. But
Mhm.
what's cool about and I think the Zapata used to do that too. But on the Arvolution, when it shows you the audio, it tells you if that movie is in 7.1 or point 6. But like the Zadu doesn't
Mm.
do that. It just says like Atmos. So I was like, oh, because I was listening to, I think it was Assassin's Creed. I think I was telling you, I was like, dude, this is one of the best mixes I've ever
Yeah.
heard. I'm like, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
getting like native content. And then when I looked at the Arvolution, it said 7.1.6. So I was like, oh snap, okay. But yeah,
Interesting.
apparently it has to be mixed with that. But I don't know how that works with Trinoff. If it like up mixes like Dolby, like all the speakers, I don't know how that works.
I
If it's just a standard mix.
Yeah, no, you can expand it out if you go DTS X Pro. You can expand it out to all the speakers, but I think that's only for DTS mixes. Um, but as far as my understanding, so if it is locked at 7.1.6, if there is a true dynamic mix, like there's metadata in it, that then all those effects that are
Mm,
dynamic can scale to any
okay, that makes
number of
sense.
speakers that you got. Yeah. But I think like Disney mixes, they're kind of locked at that
Yeah,
7.1.4, I
Atmos,
think.
they're jank.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're about to sign off, but we got a question here for Shane. He says, Shane Arundel 1723 THX Towers, I guess he meant versus B&W CT Custom Theater 7.3. Which one for movies?
Well, I didn't review the Rendell Towers. I only did their bookshelves and I did their smaller bookshelves, the S's. But out of those two and the CT 7.3s, well, I do think the Rendell's probably a little bit brighter, but you can always tame those down. The B&Ws are a bit more neutral, so you might not like that. The B&Ws are going to be a little bit easier to, I guess, hide because they're more of well, they're the custom theater line, hence the CT. So they'll be a little bit more inconspicuous. The Arendos will have more bass. The Arendos are built way better. Well, I wouldn't say way better. I mean, the B&Ws are pretty stout too. But those are still MDF. The Arendos are HDF. The Arendos look cooler, I guess.
Yeah, I do like the
Well, I
new
mean,
look.
with the tower, you got the towers, right?
No, I have the S monitors.
Oh, yeah, I thought you had the towers, no? You had the little towers, the
I
60.
had the 1961 towers. Yeah, I don't have those
Okay.
anymore. I sold those, but I had those the towers, and though like I liked them, they sounded good, but they were just they were too small, and they were just too small because I'm on a riser, so it was. I mean, they're angled up, but I was like, I want everything to be all my surrounds, my 4-bit layer speakers to be, pretty much on the same level. And so I had my center channel that was like way up here on the stand, and then the 1961s were like down here. So I was like, nah, I
Yeah.
gotta. I moved them to the back for a little bit, and that wasn't as bad because they're aimed up. But I was just like, I could hear whenever stuff panned, it was like everything was panning, and then it would drop, and I was like, I can't do that. But I mean, as far the speakers are great, so if you have like an all 1961 setup, it's great. But and I mean, I didn't notice anything with like timbre matching or anything like that. I could hear everything drop down below my ear levels, so I was
Mm.
just like, I want to get the. So now I have all my LCR is the Monitor S, and then my rear surrounds are the Monitor S, and then I have the 1961 bookshelves, or no, the 1961 monitors for my surrounds, just because I'm my room is not wide enough, and I don't have room for those big speakers, so I just went with those, and it sounds fine.
Yeah, well, back to this question, I would say probably best bang for your buck would be the rentals, especially the towers, because the 7.3s are just big bookshelves. So, I mean, if you're worried about best bang for your buck, then the rentals for sure. But for a dedicated theater, I would probably. I mean, I did. I went B&W, so yeah, but that's a dedicated space. I personally wouldn't run big towers in my theater just because it would take up too much space, and I like to have identical speakers, and I can't fit 18 towers in my home theater. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, if you're doing that, yeah, that's crazy. And also too, I thought about going with the towers, but as reviewers, I was like, man, I don't want to move these big hunky things around every time. Like, I gotta pick them up and then like go over my riser, and then I gotta figure out where to put them. I was like, nah, I can't. That's too much work. I'll just go with the monitors. Those are
Yeah,
much more manageable.
yeah. I always go for bookshelves. I just like they're just easier to place. So
Yeah,
ATI versus Monolith. I mean, they're made by ATI, but they're not the same amplifier. There's lower
I didn't know
quality
that.
capacitors. There's like lower quality power supplies, and internals are just lower quality than the actual ATI. I only know this because I asked them, and they cut corners for the mono price stuff.
Interesting. I didn't know that they were made by the same people.
Yeah. Plus,
So ATI.
plus it doesn't look as cool as the ATI amps.
Yeah, I've never had any experience with ATI or Monolith. Actually, I reached out to them a couple times. I reached out to the Monolith for to try their amplifiers. They ignored me, and I tried to ask them for some of one of their bigger subwoofers, and like I never heard anything back from them. So I was like, oh, I guess
Oh,
they don't.
Hobie
Huh?
was a Hobie.
No, I think I just went on their website
Oh,
and just emailed like whatever email that they had, their generic email, and I just emailed them and I was like, hey, I have a YouTube channel, whatever, this is that, I want to, and nobody ever responded. So maybe I just don't have a contact, or they're just like, nah, you don't
I
have
know
enough
his name's
subscribers.
Hobie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
mean,
that dude on channel. I think he was on your channel too, right? Before,
nah, it was never mine. No, I mean he did
maybe
send
he
me
was on Jeans
some.
or somebody.
He sent me cables once,
Mm.
so that was nice of him.
But I
I would
know
have.
everybody loves their, like, especially the HTP one, and I heard that at one of the theater tours that I did, and it sounded good, and it's actually got like I think it's got full direct live with bass control. Like I think it's like one of the only processors that has that.
We roasted one of these theaters where he's running the whole HTP one and monolith amps. Like, he was one of my Patreon guys. So,
I think I
and
remember that one.
his theater is on the channel. He's got a Kaleidoscape home theater.
Mhm.
So me and Don roasted him. We're like, dude, you got the most beautiful theater we've ever seen, but you got running model price stuff. I think like a month later he had Trinov and the
That's
Trinov amps in there.
hilarious. That's hilarious. Any idea
Yeah.
about Buckeye amplifiers? I don't. I keep hearing about them, and I've seen them on a couple people's channels, and they're supposed to be really like good, but I don't have any experience with them.
Yeah. Bang for buck, I think, what it comes down to. It's always it's always the the affordable stuff that people latch onto.
Yeah.
The Monoprice, Buckeye,
Emotiva.
Kanto, Emotiva, stuff like that. Um, Good bang for your buck, sure. I'm sure they sound great. You know, good bang for your buck type of thing.
Yeah. I think they're going to be at M Wave this year, so maybe I'll get a chance to hear them there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, man.
But all right, guys, thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure you leave us some comments if you're watching this later. Let us know what you think about Dune Part Two, and yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll probably see you guys on either Shane's channel or my channel, and yeah, looking forward to seeing the stuff that that's coming on your channel, Shane, and seeing your home theater, your new home theater progress. I'm sure it's going to sound awesome.
Hope so.
All right, guys. So thank you for tuning in with us on this Sunday night. We'll catch you in the next video.
Later, guys.